Welcome to the Career Lab, closing America's skills gap one person at a time.
Hello, we have Robyn from Newport Beach on the line. Robyn, how can Julie help you today?
Well, what happened is that in the last year, I've had 3 jobs that were really short term. One of them was a contract job, but the other 2 were permanent positions. And I want to work with her on seeing how I can best utilize any feedback I get from potential employers on how to handle that.
Hi, Robyn. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Julie?
I'm good. So it sounds like you've had a couple of pops around town and you want to try to figure out how to improve your situation and stabilize a little bit?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you're how old?
37.
37. What's your line of work?
Market research.
Okay. What is the feedback you've received?
The feedback I've received is just concerned that they want to find a person that will stick with the company, stay for long term, and grow with the company, whereas I've had 2 positions where it was only for 3 months each.
So were you let go or did you decide to move away?
I was the one that decided to leave.
Okay. And so something wasn't working. We should talk about.
Right. So one of them was I just was not kept busy. There weren't enough tasks for me to even keep an 8-hour day.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other position, I tried something that probably shouldn't have. I tried to go into sales and just doesn't suit my personality so well. So it didn't work out for me.
Okay. So it sounds like the sales position is certainly not your line of work, which is market research, as you stated, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you would prefer. Let's just take a big step back. In the big picture, you'd rather be more of a market research analyst, doing research, writing reports, uncovering demographic data, providing insights to a company. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so first thing, no more sales jobs because that's not sales.
Yes.
It's on a different side of the map. Okay, so we can eliminate the sales job because that was an oopsie. Now let's talk about the other permanent position you had where you didn't feel you were being kept busy enough. Was that a pure market research role?
It was, although they did have me doing some admin as well.
Okay. And at 37, with market research skills, you should be moving through the admin positions and into the core skill set, correct? You agree?
Correct. I definitely agree with that.
Okay. So are you currently working?
No.
Okay. So your job now is to interview the company better. The next time you get an interview, you need to interview them to make sure that they're going to provide the skill need that you can fill and that they're going to reward you with things that are important to you, like a heavy workload, research-based work that's pure in its nature and not diluted with administrative or sales or marketing duties.
Right.
So have you been...
So what are...
Go ahead.
Well, what are some of the questions you would recommend I ask? Because that job that we're talking about, they kept on coming back to me and saying, we don't want to overwhelm you. Well, what they ended up doing was underwhelming me. So how do I make sure that I know these people are so busy that they're not going to then forget about giving me tasks?
So it was the type of structure, organizational structure, where if you wanted to work, you had to go find the work within the company?
And I would, but then I would get feedback saying, well, then you need to come to me first before you give that my supervisor would then say, well, you need to run it through me first before you give it to that person. It's like, well, you're not available. So how do I make sure that I stay busy?
That right there would be one of the questions you would ask in your next interview is who will be giving me my work assignments? How much control will I have over the prioritization of those work assignments? Who will I be reporting to? Who's in control of the deadlines? How many layers of management are there between my getting the job done and the deliverable getting in the right hands? Because you're going to want to figure out if you're stepping into another bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
It's been my experience that most market research analysts don't like working in bottlenecks. They like to be given the task and they like to be sent out to pasture to explore and come back with their findings.
Yes, and definitely feel that way. Part of it, I think, is that person wanted to feel important, and that was one of the ways they did that.
Sure, and that's coming through pretty loud and clear. So what I'd encourage you to do is to ask some of those questions that will uncover whether or not you're going to be stepping into a politically charged situation.
Okay.
In what industry was that last role?
That was an automotive industry.
Automotive. I would think that they would have a lot of demographic research needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on your resume, even though that was a short step, I would expect that it might look pretty good on your resume to stick it in there to see if you can attract some other employer from the automotive industry, OEM, some kind of data provider for automotive consumer audiences.
Mm-hmm.
What other industries?
Now, since it was such a short term, is it even worth it to put the dates on the resume?
I would, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it really I answer with a little caution in my voice because I'm not looking at your resume right now.
Right.
And at 37, if you have 15 3-month stints, we might be having a different conversation. But if for the most part you've had stable employment, and your path looks relatively cohesive on paper, you can definitely afford a 3-month stop somewhere.
Okay.
Now, as for
sorry,
that's okay. It's hard without seeing your resume for the audience to understand what we're talking about. But I think you get the general idea.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and so then for the sales position, just remove it altogether, or
Was that 3 months?
It was.
What industry?
It was government consulting.
Do you have any other government consulting on your resume?
No.
Do you have a primary industry of employment?
Pretty much just market research. I would prefer to look at something that isn't necessarily supply specific, so that I can get more experience, more exposure.
Okay. So what industries are you thinking? I would think financial. I would think consumer goods.
Right. Consumer goods is top. And then financial is involved in there as well. I'm thinking of the companies that I worked with. It was consumer goods. There were some banks involved. Grocery stores. Yeah.
Sure.
Consumer goods.
Anything with a loyalty program. So I would definitely update your resume with the automotive. That's pretty, as they call it, sexy experience, and it would probably look good, especially since it's recent. Let's just really quickly touch on that contract position that you had. What was that?
That was working for a major market research firm that they are pretty well based nationwide, and they do have some international offices as well.
You want to leave that?
Actually, if I could go back to that company, I would love it. I just don't know that I could.
Okay. Well, I'll let you work that out, but
okay.
But I would like to include that in my kind of wrap-up recommendation, which would be to include the automotive, include the National Market Research Company on your resume, even though they were short stints, even if it's just 1 or 2 lines with a general overview of what your responsibilities were, so that the reader of your resume can understand the focus of the work you were outputting and show its transferability as much as possible, obviously to a consumer's eye, or, for creating new niches. There are lots of different reasons that a company would have you performing market research in the first place. So include that in the resume. Try to illuminate that.
Okay.
And then go to market. Don't just respond to job postings that you see. Obviously, we have a little bit of momentum here, so I would push momentum into the market. I would actively reach out to automotive companies. I would actively reach out to market research companies. I would actively reach out to CPG, consumer packaged goods companies. There's a great Twitter handle, CPG Jobs. I mean, there are lots of different companies out there in consumer packaged goods who are looking for research analysts.
Oh, perfect.
And I would be very proactive with the experience that you have. Even though it's short-lived, it sounds like it's of high-quality pedigree. So I would not, try to shift how you're thinking of your experience as short-lived and abbreviated, and I've had a stunted series of career hits. Shift that from that mindset, which is going to put you behind the eight ball and at a liability and a lower level of confidence, to a higher level of confidence, which is, look, I've been exposed in the last year to two incredible industries, and I'm actively seeking employment in either of them.
Okay, perfect.
So try to use it to your advantage, not your disadvantage.
I like that method.
Good. And be much more proactive. Don't just sit and wait for, I know researchers tend to research the internet for job postings, but get out of that. Yes. Get your sales out there and look for some new companies that you can actively, send your resume into, whether they look like they're looking or not. Everybody's always looking.
Perfect. Yeah. Then is it helpful to go and do informational interviews?
In what way? What do you think?
Finding people, either fellow alumni that are at these companies, and then sitting down with them, seeing what they're doing at their company and seeing what's available at their company to get my foot in the door. That's
not how I use an informational interview. It's a great question.
Okay.
And the answer is yes, with the caveat of, would you please consider an informational interview in the way that I think it would be most useful to you?
Okay.
LinkedIn.com/alumni or / or whatever the technical name for it is. And then search by location or industry or company name or role. You'll probably find market research analysts who graduated from your university. And since they're already aligned in role to what you do, now they are the ones to have the informational interviews with. What is market research in your company? What is market research in your industry? How did you get into that industry? What's going on in the industry? What kind of tools do you perform? Are you using R, SPSS? Are you doing stats? Are you doing demographics? What are you doing? And try to understand more about the research role itself, not where the jobs are.
Okay.
Because as you learn more about how market research is being performed as a role in a variety of different industries, it will begin to populate a map of what's going on in the current market for your particular occupational trajectory.
Okay, perfect. Right. And that way I can know what softwares to be familiar with.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. It was good to talk to you, Robyn. Thanks for calling in today.
Great to talk to you as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a very multifaceted call. There's a lot of layers to what you guys are talking about.
Oh, yeah.
If you could distill it, what do you think the reader, the listener, could learn from Robyn's question?
There's always a way to spin your experience. You've got to take what you've got on your resume and work it to your advantage. Pull the skills out of it. Figure out how it's transferable. Figure out how it works for you, and make the world see that in that setting, in that presentation, in that perspective. Do whatever you can and open doors with leading with from a strength. What do they call that? From a position of strength, not a position of weakness. Always.
And then just very quickly, can you say anything more about the informational interview strategy that you suggested to her? Because that sounded kind of interesting to me too.
Ooh, we could talk forever about informational interviews because everybody does them wrong. People usually tend to use the informational interview as a tool to get other people to tell them what they should do for a living. And that puts the person being interviewed or asked for help in a bad position because they're not career counselors. They don't know. They're not guidance counselors. So the best thing to do is to work with a guidance counselor or career counselor or call into the Career Lab and get the guidance that you need to get on the right occupational trajectory. And once you're on that trajectory, then employ the informational interview because you can begin to learn much more about the occupational pathway than you would if you were just looking around online.
All right. Well, so it goes for another episode of Career Labs.
Thanks, Peterson.
Yep.
There you go, corporate America. One more qualified young adult delivered right to your doorstep.